Respected Dharma Masters, respected practitioners, and guests. In the last talk on Liao Fan's 4 lessons, we learned that the essential factor that enabled Mr. Liao Fan to change his destiny was his ability to deeply and perfectly believe what the Venerable Zen Master Yuan Gu had told him. It was the maturing of his good roots and good fortune that provided him with the opportunity, the conditions, to meet the Master. And it is conditions that are the key to changing destiny. Cause is what we created in the past. It is unchangeable. But condition is what can happen in the present. It is changeable. The key to changing destiny is determined by conditions, and it is from these that everything arises. By controlling the variable, the condition, we can change what was supposed to happen. Mr. Yo said in his commentary that the first step in changing destiny is to correct our faults, to brush aside all the accumulated bad habits one by one, and to pull out the roots of our problems one by one. By knowing our faults, we will know where to start, what to correct, and how to proceed. We can then concentrate and use all of our energy to reform. In the process of reforming, we will naturally begin to broaden our minds, our hearts. As we broaden our minds, our hearts will become calm and peaceful, and our disposition will naturally become gentle and warm. We will begin to only have thoughts of benefiting others, to only have thoughts that are kind, speech that is soft, and behavior that is caring. There is no point in dwelling on the past, on doubts, and on regrets. There is no point in dwelling on resentment, on anger, on hatred. There is no point in dwelling on anything, for to do so will hinder our cultivation. The Master told Mr. Liao Fan to live as though everything of the past had dissolved yesterday, and all of the future began today. If we could accomplish this, then we would become a person born anew, a person of utmost virtue and sincerity. Mr. Yo told us in his commentary that one who is doubtful when he or she hears kind words of encouragement from sages may even slander them. Thus, they commit the offense of suspicion. Kind words are the teachings of sages of this world and beyond. Later generations were to call them sutras. The sutras tell us of the truths that never change. They surpass time and space. The truth that surpasses time is the same now as it was 1,000 years ago, whether in the East or the West. Upon reading this, we know that the teachings and writings of these sages, whether of this world or beyond, do not come from their personal experiences and opinions. If they did, then they could be biased or inappropriate. History is accumulated experience. The sutras contain the truth, which arises from the true nature, the original nature. Thus, it is the absolute truth that surpasses space and time. If we are able to believe, then we will benefit and improve. If we are unable to believe, then we will miss out on these remarkable benefits. Thus, Buddhism talks of doubt being the root of offense. And doubt is one of the 6 fundamental afflictions of greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, and improper viewpoints. The commentary also said that one who hears kind words of advice and gives rise to belief will have the appearance of good fortune and merit. This belief is the mother of good fortune. Mother means to give rise, to grow. All good fortune and merit arise from belief in the teachings of the sages. If we are able to believe in the words and the teachings of the sages, we will find that all infinite good fortune and merit are generated from this. Mr. Liao Fan was indeed a rare person to deeply believe immediately upon hearing the Master's words. A quote from the text. I gratefully accepted his advice and paid my respects to him by prostrating. Then I began to regret all my past wrongdoings, whether large or small, in front of the Buddha's figure. I wrote down my wish to pass the imperial examinations and vowed to complete 3,000 meritorious deeds to show my gratitude towards ancestors, earth, and heaven. End quote. Here, we see Mr. Liao Fan's sincere act of honoring the teacher and revering his teachings. He did not casually say, I believe and will do so accordingly, and then forget all about it after a while. He earnestly complied with them. What follows this is Mr. Liao Fan's own account of how he regretted each of his wrongdoings in front of the Buddha without holding anything back. This is the expression of our own sincere repentance, asking the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be our witness. The Jewel King Samadhi repentance is very long, as was Mr. Liao Fan's written confession, which listed all of his wrongdoings. The commentary also stated that a family lesson by Judza tells us that it is a serious error to fear that others will know our misdeeds. If we are truly intelligent and wise, then we will expose our own faults and shortcomings to other people, to as many people as possible. Then, when we are criticized and corrected, our karmic obstacles will be reduced. If we hide our faults, they will increase in number. The consequences from this would be inconceivable. Consequently, if others think and talk about our faults, be grateful. Even if we have not done what they say, even if we are innocent of the accusation, it really is all right. To be wrongfully accused by others will also eradicate our karmic obstacles. There is no need to refute them or to defend ourselves. If we constantly defend ourselves, then when we really do have faults, others will not try to correct them. Then that offense will become even more serious. Taizong, a great emperor of the Tang dynasty, is remembered for being wise and accomplished. Why? He did not hide his shortcomings. Anyone could talk to him about them. Even though he was the emperor, he did nothing to retaliate against them for doing so. Why? He knew the need to regret and to reform. Also, he knew that if he retaliated, no one would dare to criticize or advise him again. Mr. Liao Fan vowed to pass the imperial examination, but Mr. Kong had not destined this for him. To gain what we wish for, when it has not been destined to happen in this lifetime, is truly to have sought and gained. He made the vow to complete 3,000 meritorious deeds to show his gratitude to ancestors, spirits of heaven and earth. From the text. Upon hearing my vow, Master Yungu showed me a chart and taught me how to keep a daily record of all the kind and unkind acts that I did. He told me that bad deeds would neutralize the good ones. End quote. The Master presented Mr. Liao Fan with a merit fault chart. It provided for the entry of both meritorious as well as bad deeds. This chart was very popular during the latter years of the Ming Dynasty. Scholars, as well as Buddhists, used it to gradually correct their faults. Great Master Lian Qi drew up a merit chart called the Self-Reflection Record, which totally based its standards for good and bad behavior on Buddhism. It was thus especially helpful for Buddhists to use for ending erroneous ways and for cultivating good deeds. There are several versions of merit-fault charts that have been passed down over the years, which may be used for our reference. Mr. Liao lived 400 years ago. His manner of living was very different from ours. However, we can still abide by the principles using our own wisdom to determine how to adapt these charts to our use now, to learn how to fit them into our current society, and how we can still achieve our goals by using them. Currently, no one has come up with a merit-fault chart that is more appropriate for modern people. From the text. The Master also taught me to recite the Junti mantra. Only with a pure and concentrated mind could what I seek for come true. End quote. In Tibetan Buddhism, Junti Bodhisattva is a manifestation of Guan Yin, great compassion Bodhisattva. Why did the Master teach Mr. Liao to chant a mantra incantation instead of reciting the sutra? The purpose of chanting a mantra is to uncover our pure mind, to eradicate our wandering thoughts. Mantras are directly transliterated from Sanskrit. They have no meanings, so we will not be tempted to think of what they mean. Rather, we will simply continuously chant them. Over a long period of time, our minds will become pure. Thus, our goal will be attained, and the goal remains the same whether we are reciting sutras, chanting mantras, or a Buddha's name. But it is important that we teach others the method that is most appropriate for them. For example, if the Master had taught Mr. Liao to recite a sutra, he would have been tempted to analyze what it meant. Thus, he was taught to recite a mantra. There is a saying in Buddhism that reciting a sutra is not as good as chanting a mantra, and chanting a mantra is not as good as chanting a Buddha's name. What is important is that all emphasize cultivation. Today, we lack the fundamental education that our ancestors had. We are unable to follow the advice of ancient people. Quote, "It is not too late to mend the fold, even after the sheep are lost." End quote. So for the first few years of our practice, we can concentrate on memorizing the Infinite Life Sutra. This is especially practical for young people. The best time to learn is during the golden years of learning, before people are age 20. If we are able to memorize the sutra and recite it by heart, then we will be able to benefit from this our entire lifetime. This method provides us with 4 benefits. First, we would not forget the Chinese culture. This is especially important for those of Chinese descent living abroad. It would enable them to remember their origins. Second, we would be able to understand the Chinese language. Third, we would understand classical Chinese much more, which would provide us with the ability to read the complete library in 4 divisions. These books have been passed down through 5,000 years of Chinese history. They contain the essence of wisdom and the experience of past sages and virtuous ancients to be absorbed as our own knowledge. Fourth, we would also have the ability to read Buddhist sutras, as they serve as the foundation for our practicing Buddhism. Buddhism is the ultimate perfect wisdom. Thus, reciting sutras by heart is extremely important to our practice. If we are able to end our erroneous ways, practice kind deeds, and cultivate purity of mind, then in due time, whatever we seek will be attained. From the book. Master Yuan Gu explained that it had been said by specialists in drawing talismanic figures that those who are considered experts in the art of drawing charms, but who do not know the right way of doing so, will be laughed at by spirits. The key to drawing charms is purity of mind from start to finish. With this understanding, with the very first stroke, which is called a good beginning. In the process of drawing, one must let go of all wandering thoughts. Do not even give rise to a single thought of goodness. Only under these circumstances can a charm be successful. End quote. Charms are a form of ancient magic in Taoism, similar to mantra chanting in Buddhism. If a supposed expert in the art of drawing charms does not know how to properly draw one, then the spirits would laugh at him or her. There is a secret to this drawing for it to be effective. The key is to not give rise to any thoughts. This same principle applies to chanting mantras. Some people are able to effectively chant mantras. For example, the great compassion water, which is consecrated by the great compassion mantra, and the recitation of such can be very effective for some, not at all effective for others. Why? The person chanting the mantra did not have a single wandering thought from start to finish. If during the chanting a wandering thought arises, then the mantra would be ineffective. Therefore, the longer the mantra, the more difficult it is to successfully chant it. The Surangama mantra can be extremely effective. However, few people today are able to chant it properly. Why? The vast majority of people today have many wandering thoughts while they are chanting it. And it takes only one wandering thought to render it ineffective. It is the same with sutra recitation. If we recite one round of the Infinite Life Sutra without having any wandering thoughts, it would be outstanding. Without doubt, we would be in connection with all the Buddhas throughout time and space. Therefore, we need to recite the sutra with a mind of purity, equality, sincerity, and respect to form a connection with them. But if we recite the sutra while having wandering thoughts, we will not receive a response. From this, we know that the shorter the mantra, the more effective it can be. And chanting Namo Amitabha is even shorter. If we still think that even this is too long, Master Lianxi taught us just to chant Amitabha. If we chant this with one single thought, then it will be effective. It would be just like sending a telegram to Buddha Amitabha and having him receive it. But if we have wandering thoughts, then Buddha Amitabha will not be able to receive our message, and there will be no response. From the text, the Master continued, when one prays for and seeks something or tries to change one's fate, it is important that one does so without giving rise to a single thought. In this way, one will easily receive a response. End quote. When we seek something from the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, spirits of heaven or earth, and we need to do so without having any thoughts or considerations for our seeking to truly be effective. To achieve this, our minds need to be truly pure, without any wandering thoughts. This is the mind of sincerity, purity, and respect. Only when we appeal to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, using our mind of utmost sincerity, will we receive what we seek. The same principle applies when people make offerings to ancestors, when they appeal in front of the ancestral plaque. It would be useless to do so with an impure mind. Therefore, in the past, making offerings to ancestors was a momentous occasion. For example, some Chinese who officiated at such a ceremony needed to fast and bathe for 3 days before the religious observation. For these 3 days, this person cultivated a pure mind by shutting themselves in a small room and trying to let go of all attachments. In Buddhism, This is called contemplation, a ceremony honoring the deity or ancestors as if they were present. In doing so, at the time of the ceremony, the spirit of the ancestor will appear. When we pay respect to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas at way places, are they present? Not necessarily present, for the presence of their images does not mean they are there. If the practitioners at the way place, whether ordained or lay people, are sincere and pure in mind, then Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will be there. If they are not pure in mind, then more often or not, there will be some demons impersonating Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is explained to us in the Surangama Sutra. From the text. Mencius stated in the Principle of Forming Destiny that there is no difference between a long and a short life. At first glance, one would find this hard to understand. How can long life and short life be the same? In fact, when we do not give rise to thoughts, then there is no duality in long or short life. End quote. Short life and long life are completely different. Why say they are the same? Giving rise to wandering thoughts, discriminatory thoughts, and attachments creates duality. Without discriminatory thoughts and attachments, there is no duality. When we do not give rise to thoughts, there is no duality in short or long life. It is evident that only when our mind is pure are we able to see non-duality. Short life and long life do not differ. Nothing in the universe has duality. In Buddhism, this is called entering the state of non-duality. As explained in the speech of Vesali Sutra, the state of duality is called one mind undisturbed in the Pure Land school and one true Dharma world in the Flower Adornment school. It is the state of Buddhahood. Mencius also talked about the state of non-duality. Thus, it becomes evident that this is the state of mind Bodhisattvas attain when they are above the level of ground states. From the text. Separately analyze recreating destiny. When there is no duality between wealth and poverty, we will be able to create and form our own destiny. Therefore, it does not matter whether we are presently rich or poor. End quote. We would do well to be content with things as they are, to settle down and get on with our work. If the rich were content to be rich and the poor were content to be poor, then society would be stable, the world would be peaceful, and all would be joyful. What is being joyful? Not having any wandering thoughts, discriminatory thoughts, and attachments. If a beggar were able to understand that his or her current condition was a matter of destiny, then he or she would also be very much at ease, very fortunate and happy. There was a true story that happened in the early part of this century that is an excellent example of this. At that time, there was a beggar living in a village in Jiangsu province who would beg for food during the day. At night, he would sleep in old, deserted temples. In this way, he had a life of ease and joy. Then, his son, due to success in business, became rich and influential. However, the father was still begging for his food. The son found himself being admonished. How can you be such an unfilial son? You have such great wealth, and yet your father is still begging for his food. The son felt ashamed after hearing this and sent out people to search everywhere to find his father and to bring him home so that he, the son, could care for him. But after a month of living in his son's home, the father sneaked out one night to resume his life as a beggar. People asked the father, "Isn't it better for you to enjoy good fortune at home?" He replied, "I was very uncomfortable there. Now in the daytime, I can travel anywhere I wish. I can enjoy visiting beautiful scenery and can make any place at home for the night. There is nothing more joyful than to be as free as this. To have to remain at home for me is suffering." This man was content with his condition, so he could let go, and he attained true liberation. He was not affected the slightest bit by the 5 desires of wealth, lust, fame, food or drink, or sleep. Rather, he was happy and had purity of mind. He preferred to be on the sidelines, regarding this world as a play. Everybody else was busy pursuing prestige and wealth. This all seemed to be as if they were acting in a play. This was no ordinary person, but a model of wisdom and contentment. Most people pursue a happy and fulfilling life, not realizing that happiness and fulfillment are not necessarily synonymous with wealth, fame, and prestige. Therefore, we need to understand about destiny, need to be able to adjust, to accord with sentient beings, and be joyful over others' meritorious deeds. Only in this way will our lives also be truly happy and fulfilling. From the text. When there is no duality between failure and success, then we can control the fate of prestige and humility. When there is no duality between long life and short life, then we can control the destiny of life and death. The most important concern for human beings is that of life and death. So talking about early death and longevity encompass all conditions, whether favorable or unfavorable, whether gain or loss. End quote. To live or die at will includes according with all conditions, regardless of favorable or unfavorable conditions. We will be completely at ease. Everything becomes clear and logical. We can have good fortune and attain the great liberation. This is true living. True happiness is not achievable without great knowledge and our actual efforts in practice. We can now see that only an awakened person can settle their mind and thus create their destiny. We can likewise see that it is hopeless for the deluded to be immoral in behavior, becoming more and more corrupted. Thus, the Buddha often referred to the deluded as poor, miserable creatures. From the text. We have to wait until our cultivation reaches a certain level, then destiny will change. This depends on the accumulation of merits, on seeking a response from the heavens. When cultivating, one needs to be aware of one's own faults and resolve to correct them, just as in curing an illness. End quote. We cultivate waiting for our destiny to change, to be created. Changing destiny is not something accomplished in a day or two, but over a long period of time. We need to confidently and profoundly strive to improve ourselves. These relate to our own laziness and the need for diligence and awakening. We must be awakened and not deluded, proper and not deviated, to strive diligently for improvement. In time, we will attain the desired effect. Cultivation is correcting the three karmas of improper thoughts, speech, and behavior. We need to correct our improper viewpoints, bad intentions, and improper conduct, to adopt whatever ways are necessary to remedy our faults. From the book. While waiting, we should let go of desiring something that we are not supposed to have, and the thought of wishing to receive a reward. End quote. It is wandering thoughts to strongly hope for an early harvest of reward for our current good deeds. Unfortunately, this kind of thinking can create obstacles. It is said that we should ask only about the reaping, not about the harvest. As long as we are diligent in our cultivation, the harvest will naturally follow. Why bother to seek it every day? This teaches us the true way of cultivation, of not seeking for anything. We only need to concentrate on ending our improper ways and cultivating kind deeds. Then, in the end, we will attain whatever we desire. There is no need to seek, for everything will be attained. If we are seeking, then what we can attain will be limited. Why? Because when we do not seek, we attain everything. Everything is a manifestation of our virtuous nature. In correspondence with our virtuous nature, thus, when we do not seek, everything can be attained. When we seek, then cultivation of virtue is not in correspondence with our virtuous nature, thus limiting what we will attain. Actually, what Mr. Liao attained was cultivation of virtue. It was not yet virtuous nature, because he still sought. First, he sought scholarly honor and imperial appointments. Then he sought children. Whatever he sought, he did attain. If he did not have one thought of a request, if he solely cultivated and accumulated virtue, then everything would have turned out perfectly. He did not seek longevity, and yet he lived longer than was destined. He was only supposed to live to the age of 53, but instead he lived to age 74. We need to seek our requesting and affinity seeking. Sensible wishes are ones in which we ask for our lives to be smooth, to have enough to eat, a safe place to live, adequate clothes to wear. It would be enough to live comfortably in a small house with minimal expenses and to have a simple life. But most people want luxuries and want to impress others, not knowing the price they have to pay for these extravagances. They lose more than they gain. But if instead we share our good fortune with others, then our good fortune will become the accumulation of merit. If we cultivate and accumulate enough merit to last for 100 generations, then our descendants will have inexhaustible enjoyments. If we were truly intelligent and wise people, we would share our excessive good fortune with others. Therefore, we need to be patient. Why seek for the early arrival of good fortune when it will come in good time? From the text. It would be quite an accomplishment in achieving these teachings to be able to reach the innate state of no thought. It is the actual learning and practice of wisdom. Master Yuangu told me, I know that you are still unable to accomplish the state of no thought, but you can practice reciting the Junti mantra continuously without counting the numbers of recitations and without interruption. In this way, you will be better off. When you reach a higher level of constant mindfulness, you will be able to achieve the level of to not recite when reciting and to recite when not reciting. When the reciting becomes second nature, the mantra will become effective and successful. End quote. Actual learning and practice is true knowledge. Reaching achievement is what Buddhists call returning to the original state. It is to reveal our original self-nature, which is not the state of an ordinary being. This is true happiness. It is to be filled with the Dharma joy, to truly abandon suffering for happiness. It is what awakened people seek. This method, taught by the Master, enables us to practice concurrently the three learnings of self-discipline or abiding brought by the precepts, deep concentration, and wisdom. This type of method is called perfect practice with perfect attainment. The Flower Adornment Sutra explains that one is all is one. To cultivate one method is to cultivate all methods. The essence of the practice is to continuously recite without keeping track of the number of recitations. This is to do so without interruption, without intermingling with other thoughts or other methods. Is there a need to count the recitations? The Master did not tell him to do so, but rather to recite continuously. Many ancient sages required practitioners to start their cultivation by keeping track of the number of recitations. Why? Because, like us, they were lazy and lacked diligence. Thus, it was helpful to have a goal for the practitioner to meet a required number of recitations every day. For example, to chant a Buddha's name 10,000 times every day. Meeting this goal helped to counteract the bad habits of laziness and indolence. If we do not count, then we may forget to practice. But for someone as honest and as earnest as Mr. Liao Fan, there was no need to keep track of the recitations. Indeed, for him that would have served as intermingling. His cultivation was truly learned and diligent. Thus, he was able to practice without interruption, without intermingling with other thoughts or with other methods. All methods are equal. No one method is different from the others. Attainment lies in delving deeply into one method for a long period of time. In the past, people generally practiced sutra recitation, but whether reciting sutras, chanting mantras, or a Buddha's name, we all need to practice with a mind of purity, equality, and respect. We all need to practice continuously to truly attain the effects from practice. The Master knew that Mr. Liao Fan was still unable to accomplish the state of no thought, but he could practice reciting the Junti mantra continuously, without keeping track of the number of recitations and without interruptions.